The former Prime Minister paying tribute to a political giant and friend. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Altaviz Munnings. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. They've mirrored each other for much of their lives. And tonight, former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, is sharing bittersweet memories of his colleague and friend, the late Dr. Bernard Nottage.
Now, plagued by illness, his resolve to stay in the game politically matched the determination that marked his progression from athlete to medical doctor to legendary politician. Whether as comrades or competitors, the late Dr. Bernard Nottage and former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, have stood side by side for the last 60 years. A brotherhood bound by sports, politics, and genuine admiration and respect.
We had this very close relationship, and then when BJ came home from school, I was the intending member of Parliament. I was running. I invited him to coordinate my campaign. He coordinated my campaign in 1977. He coordinated my campaign in 1982 for the Centerville constituency. Then he ran in 87. He consulted me and his brother Kendall about whether he should accept Sir Lyndon's, well, it was then Lyndon Pinling's, was interested in running him in 82. And I said, listen, man, your mama had you become a gynecologist and obstetrician. Go make your money and then come into politics.
The former Prime Minister remembers a politician who was thoughtful, ambitious, and whose generosity had no end, often being extended to his constituents in Bain and Grantstown. He says it was perhaps the combination of that love and stubborn spirit which was reflected in his determination to, notwithstanding his illness, continue in the career he lived and breathed.
I think when I look back at it, and I ask the question whether he ought to have run, whether he ought to have subjected himself to the pressure and stress of competing in an election and going house to house, and I realized it was BJ that, you know, this old saying, cowboy want to die with their boots on. It was just Dr. Nottage, and because he was a favorite person of mine who never ever allowed his name to be caught up in any compromised issue. And when you look back at his career, you will find without fear of contradiction that he was never involved in anything near scandalous, always sort of impeccable in his conduct and impeccable in his behavior. He had a tremendous love and passion for the country, and he showed it in so many different ways.
Mr. Christie said his final conversation with Dr. Nottage at his hospital bedside was hard. The two spoke about their life and times, their accomplishments, and the abstract issues of life. Dr. Nottage's answer to the question about his will to live all led back to the journey he began 40 years ago.
I asked him if he had the will to live. And he looked at me. He says, you know I have the will to live. So you know that. He says, my difficulty right now is I might be without insurance. And that's what my concern is. Am I without, because we were caught between being insured as a minister and then being uninsured as a... And so he had that dilemma. I said, man, that shouldn't be your concern. The last thing in the world you should be thinking about is that. He says, no, Christy. He said, you know, I'm just thinking about life. I'm thinking about what's going to happen. He said, and you know what? It's a pity for me that I'm the first one. I said, what do you mean you're the first one? The first one of our lot. And he just left it like that. It's the first one to be sick, the first one to be hospitalized, the first one to be challenged, the first one to die. And I remember, Keishla, I remember saying to him, BJ, I'm going to leave you now. And I remember rubbing his hair. Right? I said, you know, this is a big fight for you. And you must ensure that you fight with all your might, because it will help. Shortly after that, he slipped into a coma. So I will sit here at night and think of my friend who is no more, and ask myself the question as to life. And I repeat it over and over, you know. As for a man, his days are as grass, as a flower in the field he flourisheth. For the wind passes over, and it is gone, and the place thereof shall know it no more.